You are listening to the Novel Writing Podcast, episode 215. I'm your host, Colleen Mitchell. Grab a cup, cozy up, and let's get to writing. Today we're going to challenge one of the most well-known pieces of writing advice, which honestly can actually dissuade writers rather than help, depending on your brain. Like all writing advice, take what works and leave what doesn't. So if you write every day and that works for you, then this isn't the episode for you. But if you've been told that you can't be a real, professional, or even a good writer without putting fingers to keyboard or pen to paper every single day, and you're worried that taking time between writing sessions mean you'll never quote-unquote make it as an author, then keep listening. New writers tend to look for advice from well-seasoned, prolific, long-term writers like Stephen King, James Patterson, and so on. If you know the author's name and they've written a bucket load of books, they have probably given advice or even written craft books. And a lot of the time, that advice is to get your butt in the writing chair. Stephen King writes 2,000 words a day, even on holidays. Neil Gaiman wrote Coraline in really small chunks, reportedly in 50 words or 10 minutes a day, between 1990 when he started and 2002 when it was published. James Patterson writes every day by hand, which then gets transcribed, or he dictates to an assistant, or he uses co-authors, which is another thing entirely. Nora Roberts writes every day for 6 to 8 hours. Theoretically, there's nothing wrong with the advice except when paired with every day, as in get your butt in the writing chair every day. So why does this advice create so many problems? Because, simply, not everyone can get their butt into the writing chair, metaphorically speaking, to write. A lot of the time, this advice is geared toward people who are already writing full-time, not people with chaotic lives, 9-to-5s, and stories living rent-free in their heads. Maybe you work 410s and the only thing you can do after getting home is eat dinner and crash. Writing is a creative, brain-intensive task which suffers in an exhausted state. I lived that for almost 6 months and had to condense my writing time into the weekend like a madwoman. It was probably the worst 6 months of my writing life in a long time. Maybe you have a demanding family schedule and you only have 1 or 2 days a week where you can truly claim time to write for yourself. And not even the whole day, we're talking a couple hours max, potentially broken into several shorter sessions. Maybe you travel a lot for work and the days bleed together. Mode of travel matters too. Maybe you can never focus on airplanes or trains, or you're too busy driving to even think about your book, let alone attempt to dictate while on the road. And please do not actually try to type a story into your phone while you're driving. That's just not a good idea. Maybe you have a newborn and it's all you can do to just take a shower, let alone jot down a line of dialogue. Maybe you're in the sandwich generation, where you're raising kids and caring for elderly parents, and all you can do is type on your phone, and certainly not every day. Maybe you have a chronic illness or a disorder, which by nature takes up more of your daily mental capacity, and some days you don't even have the spoons to spare for writing. For more context on what I mean, look up Spoon Theory by Christine Miserandino. Maybe you're in school and working full-time and have a pretty active social life, but still have a story inside. No matter your limiting situation, and I put that in air quotes because all of these situations are just life, there's no rule book for writers saying you must put words on the page every single day or you're not a writer. Because humans are so self-centered, and that's not an insult, the person you think most about is yourself, don't lie. Anyway, because of that, we tend to think if something worked for me, then it must, and has to, work for someone else. Even if that person's life is completely different and they have a different brain than you do. The same is true for highly successful authors who churn out books like clockwork. They have found systems that work for where they are in their careers and assume it must work for everyone else. But it won't. I don't write every day. I'm about to publish my 5th book, and I'm almost done writing my 6th. What works for me is being flexible, but not so flexible to lose the discipline of meeting deadlines. I may write, outline, or brainstorm 4 to 5 days a week, work on podcasts and administrative stuff 1 day a week, and then attempt to take Sunday off. Or there's some weeks where I'm not writing at all because I'm working on audiobooks or at a conference or whatever other thing happens that means I won't put my butt in the chair to write. And if you run Kickstarters, be prepared to not write a single word for the entire campaign. It took author Z.S. Diamante 6 Kickstarters to figure out how to write a book while the campaign was live because it is such a demanding month. All this to say, you can safely throw aside this advice to write every day if you find it doesn't fit your life. What I'd recommend instead is to find a schedule or system that does work for your life and your brain to be writing as often as possible. It doesn't need to be every day, maybe not even every week. But consistency, like Neil Gaiman over those 10 plus years for Coraline, is a better predictor of completing a book than waiting for inspiration or motivation to strike. There has to be a measure of self-discipline to put words on the page, even if it's not daily. That's it for today's episode. Thanks for joining me, and remember, the first draft is supposed to be garbage. The Novel Writing Podcast is a production of Colleen Mitchell Writes. For more writing resources, including Curios, Tally Inc. author services, and the 60-day novel writing challenge, check out the links in the description.